Now I know I might lose all of my anime street cred when I say this, but 90% of the time when I watch anime, I watch dubs.
Nani?
I'm sorry, it's just more convenient to watch it in my native language. Also, I think that bad dubs are mostly a thing in the past. Now, I will totally give it to you that back in the 90s and early 2000s, there were plenty of bad dubs that were out there.
Rio, I don't think Akira should come with you. He had an accident earlier.
I don't give a shit.
But most of that was because anime was still kind of a newer thing in the West, and a lot of times when they came over, they would change the scripts in order to try to make them appeal to what they thought American audiences would want, or Canadian audiences, whatever was doing the dub at the time. They would change particular things about the story, the dialogue.
These donuts are great. Jelly-filled are my favorite. Nothing beats a jelly-filled donut.
There would inevitably be a bunch of plot holes that would happen because of this. Sometimes they would change the music, and sometimes they would edit out so much of the series that multiple episodes worth of content would actually be removed from the anime when it would air. So it was this whole weird conflicting thing that they would try to basically go in and Frankenstein it to create something completely different. But nowadays, it's not really like that. Nowadays, most of the actual Japanese intentions stay intact. They don't really edit things out from the show. They don't change the music, and they try to do the dialogue as well as they can, and I think there's a lot of really good voice actors out there. We're no longer getting things like the classic Devilman dub.
Fuck you!
However, there is this outlier that I am just absolutely enamored with at the moment, and it was something that I had heard about for a very long time, but I never truly checked out myself until recently, and it has to do with a little anime called Ghost Stories. A simple one-season-long anime, which is a very cute story about a bunch of high school kids that are solving supernatural mysteries. It's not adult-oriented, there's not a lot of gore, it's just a very simple series about a bunch of kids that you could basically call a Scooby Gang, kind of solving week-to-week, episode-by-episode cases of weird paranormal things that are happening. There would be a ghost that would arrive, they would have to battle the ghost, defeat the ghost, and that would be the end of the episode, and everything is sort of wrapped up. Very simple, very basic series, basic premise. But here's the thing.
God, you are four of the ugliest fucking kids I've ever had the misfortune of laying my eyes on. I can't wait for this bitch to kill.
The reason this series is still talked about to this day, it's an early 2000s show, but the reason that it's still talked about today and the reason why it's so popular and so infamous is because the official English dub of Ghost Stories is an absolute anomaly among anime dubs. See, something happened that allowed ADV Films, who did the dub of Ghost Stories, to have full creative control with only the exception of a few things. They couldn't change the name of the characters, they couldn't change the reasons why the ghosts were defeated, and there was a few other little asterisks as well that they couldn't do, but mostly they were allowed to create the scripts from ground zero as long as the basic concept of the episode got across and they didn't change the name of the characters. And other than that, they had full creative control to do whatever they wanted to with the dub. So what they decided to do was make this the most ridiculous, off-the-wall, crazy, raunchy humor that you could possibly imagine to ever be out in an official English dub of an anime ever.
How high are you?
There's no one around. I can't hear anything. I'm freaking out. Paranoid.
You smoked all of it, didn't you?
Perfect. It's in Japanese. Jing Chao Nong Ning Tao. Wait, that's Chinese.
Hello, sinner. God, can you go bomb an abortion clinic or something?
Now, there's a lot of conflicting evidence online to say how this actually happened. On the one hand, you have a lot of people saying that the show performed very poorly in Japan, and so when it was brought over to the West to be dubbed, they were like, look, just do whatever you can to make this sell. Now, there was another argument saying that there was actually a previous English dub, which I guess really did exist. People are saying it's that one which did not do well. Whatever the case, when it was brought over here to be done by ADV Films, they were given the task of do whatever you can to sell this show.
I want a huge allowance and breasts when I get older.
And when I get older, I want to fondle said breast.
And so they gave it to this guy named Stephen Foster, who is notorious for changing dubs and doing weird things with anime and basically making characters say things that they wouldn't have actually said in the original translation. Now, once again, this was a little bit of a different time period for anime. I don't think you could get away with this now quite as much as you could back then. Maybe with somebody like Foster's reputation that you could, but back then it was a little bit different. They gave you a lot more liberty to change things and try to like westernize it or try to make it a little bit more appealing. And so his idea of what to do to make it more appealing is just to follow those guidelines and only those guidelines. Keep the characters' names, defeat the ghost the same way, and keep the general premise of the episode. Other than that, he did whatever the fuck he wanted, and it became one of the most infamous, crazy, insane, fourth wall breaking, raunchy, perhaps like you could even call it an abridged series, but it's an official released abridged series. This thing exists. It's still out there. It's not hidden away. It's not something that has been lost to time. It's not something that the company has sort of kind of tucked away and made a redub of another official version. No, this is the official English version of Ghost Stories. In fact, you can go onto Crunchyroll right now if you have an account, and you can watch the English dub of Ghost Stories, and it will be this.
Oh, but you don't look so good.
Run! She's a ghost and a bitch!
It reminds me of like when I was a kid and I would watch the old Godzilla movies, and every once in a while I would put them on mute and I would just overdub the mouth flaps and just make the dialogue whatever I wanted it to be. That's essentially what it was here. And it's not just that he would write the scripts in his own way to make it whatever he wanted to be. He would also have the voice actors come in, and the rumors say that whoever was the first voice actor in the booth did their scenes, and they wouldn't tell the other voice actors about it until they got there, so they would have to listen to what the first one recorded and try to riff off of it. Basically, you're doing improv of what somebody else said earlier in a different recording session, and you're just trying to make it all make coherent sense while also trying to one-up everybody. So somebody would say an off-the-wall, non-PC joke, and then the next person would try to up it, and the next person would try to up the ante, and it became this sort of back and forth of who could be the most extreme within their humor, but yet still keep the episode going. So I watched the first episode I've ever seen of this series, and it was the infamous Bunny episode. You can watch this episode for free on YouTube. It's on there somewhere. As well, it was one that people were telling me to watch, that it was a really good episode to kind of like sink your teeth into. So I watched the Bunny episode first. I didn't start with episode 1, and I actually recorded an entire reaction video of me watching the Bunny episode of Ghost Stories. However, YouTube did not like it, and I got copyright strike before I could even upload the video. So unfortunately, even though that review reaction is out there, you guys are not going to be able to see it, because no matter what I try to do whenever I use a content like that, it immediately flags and copyright claims me. I don't know how any reaction channel gets away with anything. I put all sorts of shit and filters over it that I could possibly think of, and I even like paused the video to make commentary while I was watching it, and still YouTube just screwed me. So you don't get to see that. Maybe I'll put it up as like a special Patreon video if you guys want that, but beyond that, I guess I can't do it. I'm sorry, I wanted to, but I can't. But what has happened since the dub has come out is they have taken this very mediocre anime series. It's not a bad anime if you watch it just regularly. Say you watch it with Japanese with the subtitles on. If you're watching the Japanese subtitles while you're watching the English dub, you can see the differences, and it's just like it's like night and day with the difference. But it's not a bad show. It's a cute, fun little show. You know, it's something that I think like teenage audiences would enjoy. But the English dub enhances it to a level of infamy, to the point where it will be a show that will never be forgotten. Something that would have come out and come and gone. Nobody would have ever remembered. Nobody would have ever talked about again. They have managed to turn it into this cult classic series that only is famous and popular because of the dub itself.
Sad that I would never hear that voice again. His laugh. His funny little requests.
Touch me.
Now again, there are conflicting opinions about how popular it actually was in Japan. It did not get more than one season, but a lot of people were saying that the ratings were actually decent when it came out. It's just a matter of the translation. The English dub is what did poor, and so this version was made instead. And hey, I don't really know the truth of it. All I can say is that this is something that I've heard about for many, many years. I've known of this dub, but this is the first time I actually sat down to watch it. So the Bunny episode was my first one, and now I've been watching through the rest of the series. And the thing that's most impressive to me is how coherent the episodes actually are. Like, okay, completely character personalities are changed. One character just becomes an outright super religious person that's always talking about Jesus. The main character is always breaking the fourth wall. There's a ton of perverted jokes, but of course a lot of that could just be from the actual Japanese version for all I know. But all these things are in there, and yet the episodes actually make sense. So I'm just incredibly impressed with how they were able to abridge this and do their own script, do their own ad-libs, just go back and forth and riff off one another. But yet at the same time, when you watch an episode from start to finish, it feels like an actual legitimate episode. It feels like a story has taken place. It feels like there's a beginning, middle, and end. It feels like there's a climax and conclusion. And it just all fits in this very unique way. But at the same time, you have people doing incredibly like racist jokes and over the top fourth wall breaks and sexual jokes and people talking about like how a man and woman make a baby and like all of these ridiculous things. And I don't think it's done in a mean-spirited way. I don't think the edgy jokes are done in a demeaning way. I don't think so, at least. But for the most part, I feel like everyone was just having as much fun as they possibly could, making this be as ridiculous as possible. And that's what it comes off as. It doesn't come off to me as mean-spirited or degrading or anything like that. It just feels like what would be the most ridiculous thing this character could say in this situation to make it make sense to who we have created this character to be in this crazy, wacky dubbed version that is just a unique entity all of its own.
Asian trash can't pay the phone bill.
And the crazy thing is, I don't think we will ever get something like this ever again. This is definitely a product of its time. Right place, right time, the stars aligned, and we somehow were able to be gifted this incredible piece of cinema that will never be replicated. I couldn't imagine a world now where an anime comes out in Japan and no matter how well it does, if it was brought over here to be dubbed into English, I couldn't imagine any studio ever at this point in time saying, just do whatever the hell you want with the script, change it however you want, create whatever you want. The only, like, I could only see that happening maybe with, like, hentai or something, you know, which I don't watch. I swear to God I don't. I swear. But anyways, guys, if you guys have seen Ghost Stories, or if you've watched a chunk of it, or if you've seen a few episodes, please let me know what you think about it. How did you first experience it? Did you hear about it from the word of mouth where people were saying how crazy it was? Did anybody, what I really want to know is, did anybody actually sit down to legitimately watch this show thinking it was an actual, like, literal translation, like, ready for a normal dub, and all of a sudden got this? Because I could imagine that would be the best experience. I would have rather experienced it like that, just sitting down thinking like, oh, this is a new anime I'm going to check out, and then all of a sudden I just get this.
Hey, can you guys hear anything? You know what I hear? I hear the sound of you shutting the fuck up. That
has to be the absolute best way to experience it. I couldn't imagine any other way. But if you guys have seen Ghost Stories, let me know what you think about it down below. What's your favorite episode? I'm making my way through them right now. I believe I'm on episode like 7 or 8. So I'm just I'm just enjoying the hell out of it. You guys let me know down below. And if you do want to see my reaction to the bunny episode, let me know as well. And then maybe I can upload that as like a special Patreon video or something like that. Patreon is down below too if you'd like to support the channel. Also trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. If you wanted to help and hit the subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. If not, that's all right too. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Sorry, I keep hitting that. I'll talk to you next time.